President, please be seated. The chamber is now back in session, and the floor is given to the International Deputy Co-Prosecutor to put question to the witness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Witness, I'm going to quickly turn to the different duties that were yours after 17 April 1975. Well, can you tell us which position you had in the East Zone and in Region 21 in particular after 17 April 1975?
I was the Deputy Chief of the factory in the East Zone, particularly at Chong Ong Krong, Bong Khmum.
And if I understood your WRI properly, this was a plant manufacturing metallic spare parts. Am I correct?
Answer, that is correct.
When you were the deputy chief of this factory, were you able to keep tight relations with your father, whether it be through different communication means, or would you meet him from time to time?
I did not have any work relation with him.
But did you still have family ties with him? Could you meet him from time to time, as a father meets with his father? As a son meets with his father, corrects the interpreter.
We did not have time to visit each other as a family.
During that period, were you trained to perform your duties at the factory?
I was technically trained to work in the task at the factory.
And can you tell us where this training took place and how long it lasted?
I came to attend the training session at Usai Kao after 17 April 1979, said the witness, and the training took place nearly a year.
We heard 17 April 1979 in the interpretation, but I imagine it was 17 April 1975 that you, in fact, underwent that training after 17 April 1975 when you were in Phnom Penh. Therefore, you were already a member of the Communist Party of Kampuchea. And did you have the occasion or the obligation to partake in major meetings organized by the party, or to partake in training sessions, whether it be at the Olympic Stadium or at Borei Kela?
No. I was at my training school, and the meeting took place in evenings at Usaikao.
In parallel to your duties as a deputy chief of the metallic spare parts plant in the East Zone, did you also have did you also have a position within the Commerce Office of the Eastern Zone?
As the deputy chief of my unit, after I completed the training, I went back through the metallic spare parts plant, and I was tasked with the technical aspect, and I was assigned to transport the logistics from Phnom Penh to my unit.
In your WRI E3/5531, you spoke often about the fact that you would travel to Phnom Penh at the seat of the Commerce Office of the East Zone, in particular in answer 40. In answer 37, you said, in general, you spent your time in Phnom Penh more than in my unit, end of quote. So, did you spend a lot of time at the seat of the Commerce Office of the East Zone in Phnom Penh as part of your duties?
The time that I spent in my unit and in Phnom Penh was of similar amount. I had to wait at the Commerce Office to gather the materials so that I could bring them back to my unit.
If I understood well, you did not have a very high position within the Commerce Office. Is that true? Am I right?
No, I did not have any major position. I was only waiting to collect materials to be brought to my units. We had different tasks. I was working in the metallic spare parts plant, and they were working in the Commerce Office.
Did you learn at that Commerce Office who the leader of the Commerce Office of the East Zone had ties with, in particular with the party? Did you learn, for example, if the Commerce Office of the East was ever in contact with Khoi Tuon?
President, please hold on. You have the floor now, Council. The International Council for Khieu Samphan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I object to the way that the co-prosecutor is phrasing his questions. The first open question, no problem, but when he starts suggesting names, whereas for the moment the witness did not even answer the question, so I object to this way of proceeding. It's a way of leading the witness. Open question, no problem, but the second part I object to. Co-prosecutor, well, I'm not going to answer just to gain time. I'm simply going to rephrase my question. So, witness, do you know with which leaders the Commerce Office of the East Zone had ties in the context of its duties?
Thank you. I do not know about that. The only task that I performed back then was to bring letters concerning the requests or requirement of the zone, and the letters were signed by Sao Pum. I would send the letters to the Commerce Office, and then I did not know where the letters were sent to afterward. Usually I was waiting in a vehicle or in the convoys that we were assigned to bring materials back to my unit. After they receive the letters, they would bring us to the location where we had to upload where we have to upload our material onto our vehicle.
So if I understood you well, you would receive letters signed by Sao Pim and you would transport them to the East Zone Commerce Office. So does that mean that you had the opportunity of meeting Sao Pim? Or did things happen otherwise? You would receive letters that were already signed, but you would not meet him before going to Phnom Penh.
Most of the time, the letters were delivered to me by the messenger of the zone at Tul Chong Ong Krong. I was not assigned or tasked with delivering the letters instead of the messenger. And sometimes Sao Pum, when Sao Pum invited us to a study session, that the time that we could meet Sao Pum, and we could only see Sao Pum when we were invited to see him.
Now, regarding these study sessions, can you tell us how often Sao Pim would organize these sessions, and what were the topics that were covered during these sessions?
I never participated and attended the study session convened by Sao Pum.
Well, I'm wondering if there might not be an interpretation problem, because in the previous answer, I understood that when Sao Pum would summon you to a study session, you were given written messages that were signed by Sao Pim. So this situation should be clarified. Did you participate or not in study sessions that were organized by Sao Pim?
No, I never attended the study session.
You said that you spent pretty much half of your time in Phnom Penh at the East Zone Commerce Office. Did you meet there sometimes your father, Mi Seng Hong alias Chong, or Sao Pim when they would travel to Phnom Penh?
No, I never met them. Thank you.
Well, we already spoke about your father, but now I would like to revisit a few additional clarifications, in particular regarding the colleagues with whom he worked. Can you tell us whom he followed as secretary of Sector 21? So who was the first secretary of this sector before your father became the secretary?
Poong, the former secretary of Sector 21. Poong, thank you.
When your father replaced Tapum, what were Tapum's subsequent duties? Do you know?
I do not know. The only thing I knew is that he was promoted.
So he was promoted, but did he survive the regime? Do you know? If he was arrested later on, did you learn about that during the regime when you were in Sector 21?
I do not know about that.
Who followed your father at the head of Sector 21 once your father was promoted to become Deputy Secretary of the East Zone? Who followed your father to head Sector 21?
Chien.
And did Chien or Tachin remain secretary of Sector 21 until the very end of the regime, or was he replaced by someone else?
He did not remain after chief of that sector. Later on, Sot replaced Chien, and Sot also did not remain the chief until the end of the regime or 1978. However, later on, after Sot's position, after Sot, I did not know who came to replace Sot.
Well, before we get back to Sot, let's speak again about Chien. When he left Sector 21, do you know if he left that region or that sector to exercise the same duties in another sector of the East Zone?
He was transferred from Sector 21 and then became chief of Sector 22 in the same zone, East Zone.
Did you ever learn what the Tachin's full name was?
I do not know his full name, and allow me to inform the chamber that it was rare that cadre used full names. Very few of them used full name, and I myself did not use my full name. I used only Suan back then, and everyone knew my father's name as Chan, not the full name. Very few of them knew people by full name.
D'accord.
Fine. Do you know what happened later on to Tachin? Whereas he was the secretary of Sector 22.
I do not know.
Now, Mr. President, I would like to provide to the witness document E3/2229 to identify this person. And this is a list of people who were interrogated at S21, and the ERNs, or correction, Chin's name is under the heading Sector 22 East Zone at number 30 in this list. In Khmer, it's on page 3, in French on page 4, and in English on page 4 as well. So, with your leave, Mr. President, may I provide this document to the witness?
President, you may proceed. Please turn on your microphone.
So on page 3, witness, and at number 30, there's a person who is identified in the following way: Mia Chuon, CHUUCHHUON, alias Chien, CHEAN. That's at number 30. So Miss Chun, alias Chien, who was 52 years old and was the secretary of Sector 22. And then there is a date, which is probably the date he entered S21. That's 12 June 1978. So does this Tachin, who was 52 years old at the time, and who was the secretary of Sector 22, is the person who followed your father to head Sector 22.
Yes, that is Tachin, who used to be chief of secretary of Sector 21.
Did Tachin have children, in particular daughters, who were already grown up at the time? And possibly, did you know the names of his daughters or of his wife?
I never conversed with Chien, let alone his wife and daughters. All I know is that Chien came to replace my father.
Fine. For the purposes of the records, I would like to signal to the chamber that on this same document at numbers 50 and 50 to 52, There are three people described as being the wife of the despicable Chien and the two daughters of the despicable Chien as well, who entered S21 on 27 June 1978. Now I would like to return to Tassot, the secretary of Sector 22 who followed Tachien. Do you know what happened to him? You said that he did not reach the end of the regime and that in 1978 he was no longer the head of Sector 21. Was he arrested or not?
Tassot came to replace Tachien. However, I do not recall when he came to replace Tachien. After Tachien was transferred and became the secretary of Sector 22, Sot came to replace Chien. Tassot may have been arrested in the 1976 event, that is the event of purging all of ill-zoned cadres.
You just spoke to me about the purchase of all of the cadres of the East Zone, and you spoke about 1976. Are you sure of that date?
Yes, I am sure. I recall it well, and back on the 25th May 1978, said the witness, I was playing with other, and it happened in the years of Dragon at the time, and there was heavy flood at the time.
Fine. Maybe it was, again, an interpretation issue. I know that you corrected, so you spoke about 25 May 1978, not 1976. So I'd like you to look at that same document again, E3/2229. At number 29.
President, please hold on. Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor now. Guise.
Yes, thank you. Now, with regard to the date, I see that the co-prosecutor is coming up with his own conclusions. Maybe it would be easier to ask the witness which date he was referring to and have him confirm this rather than coming up with his own conclusions. Response. Okay, fine. Before we move on to the document, you spoke about 25 May 1978. Does that mean that the major purges you spoke about took place then, or did the purges take place in 1976? Because earlier we heard the date of 1976.
I may have answered incorrectly. The exact date was 25th of May 1978. There were purges in the East Zone. All of the cadres were to be purged, including South Burma as well, who had to be purged.
D'accord, donc.
Very well. Let us look at document E3/2229 again. And perhaps you would find number 29 on the document is directly below Chim. And at number 29, we read the following, and it is under the title Region 21 East Zone. And it is stated therein that TAUCH Dutch SEM CHEM alias SOT age 38, masculine, secretary of the region, that is Region 21, and the date is the 5th of June 1978. that is the date of entry into S21. Is it the same Tassot you referred to, and who was the head of Region 21, chief of Region 21?
But
Sot became the secretary of Sector 21 after Chien.
Sur cette liste E3,
On this list, E3/2229, I see you have some difficulty perhaps in reading the list. I would like to focus on other numbers of persons, that is number 12. First of all, it is a person called Sok, S-O-K, Knol, K-N-O-L, alias Lin, L-I-N, or Peam, P-E-A-M. Take particular note of the alias Lin or Peam, age 46, member of the Zone Committee and Chief of the Zone Office. Together with Salpim and your brother, was there any person called Lin in the Zone Office? Did you know such a person?
But
Yes.
est-ce que cette personne a été victime des...
Was that person a victim of the major purges on the 25th of May 1978? Or you do not know what happened to him?
It was during the same period, since he was also from the East Zone. Even in South Pum, he was not spared. So forget about the subordinates.
Juste quelques autres exemples.
I have a few more examples, numbers 17 and 18 on the list. Are for two persons called Usak, A-O-U, and Sak, S-A-K, and Yu, Y-O-U, Reeb, R-E-A-B. He is described as being the chief and deputy chief of the state commerce in the zone based in the twin regions, regions 23 and 24. He also worked in the State Commerce Department. Did you know those persons at the time?
No, I did not know that person.
Enfin, au numéro 25 de...
Lastly, number 25 on the list refers to an individual called Sun, S-U-N. His full name is Chia Sin, alias Sun. Secretary of Region 20, entered S21 on the 5th of June 1978. Did you know that person called Sun, Secretary of Region 20 at the time?
Yes, I knew him. He was a secretary of Sector 20.
Est-ce que lui-même a été aussi victime des...
Was he also a victim of the major purges of the 25th of May 1978?
Yes, he was.
Savez-vous de quoi était accusé?
Do you know what the persons who were the victims of those major purges accused of? And you refer to all the cadres of the East Zone. What were they blamed for, or what were they accused of, if you do know?
Mostly they were accused of betraying the party, and that they were also accused of colluding with the June.
Alors, une autre personne qui m'intéresse,
Another person of interest to me is your father's predecessor at the head of Regions 23 and 24. Can you tell us who were the heads of Regions 23 and 24 before your father was appointed chief above them?
I only knew Chuk, secretary of Sector 24, and I did not know who was the secretary for Sector 23.
et qu'est-il arrivé à...
And what became of Tachuk, secretary of Region 24, of in the region?
I did not know about that.
Pour vous rafraîchir la mémoire, je vais vous...
To refresh your memory, I'll read out to you what you said in answer to question 67 in your WRI E3/5531. This is what you stated. My father was chief of the double region, that is regions 23 and 24, after the arrest of Tachuk. Before his arrest, Chuk had been the head of Region 24. End of quote. Do you confirm that Tachuk himself was arrested, as was the case with a large number of cadres from the East Zone?
Yes. For those people who worked with Tachuk were all gone. No one was left. So this means that when the chief was arrested, that is true, then his subordinates were also gone. I knew Tachuk's driver, and later on he was taken away for study sessions. That was the phrase they used. They never said that those people were subject to arrest. They only said that comrades, you had to go to attend study sessions.
Savez-vous à quelle période...
Do you know during what period he was arrested? Was it the same period which you referred to before, or it was another period?
I am not sure about the exact period that it happened.
Alors je signale pour les besoins...
Let me point out, for the purposes of the record, that the name of Chuk, Secretary of Region 24, is on a list of persons interrogated at S21, and the reference of document is E3/1949 at number 440. There are also confessions of that person on record, and his document E3/2494 and E3/2990. And the date of arrest indicated is the 31st of August 1976. Witness, as regards Tachuk, I would like to read an extract of Kaingek Yves alias Dutch's testimony, Chief of S21, before this tribunal on the 18th of May 2009. And this is what he stated. And this is document E3/345. After 12 hours 04 minutes. I'll quote in English, and I quote, Doik.
First, the very great time consuming was to compile the confessions in which Su Neu, alias Chuk, was implicated. Su Neu, alias Chuk, was the secretary of Sector 24 of the East Zone. He was implicated in several confessions. When the Standing Committee was about to meet again, my superior ordered S21 to gather information and extract key points from the document concerning Su Neu, alias Chuk. And a little further, he added, finally, the Standing Committee made a decision to arrest Chuk and send to S21. End of quote. Le 15 juin 2009,
On the 15th of June 2009, Deutsch added the following and his document E3/5799 at 10 hours 20 minutes and 50 seconds. And this is what Deutsch said in English.
person, for example, Su Neu, alias Chuk, the secretary of Sector 24. Then the Standing Committee paid good attention until Brother Pim agreed. And there had been a lot of documents and meetings of the Standing Committee before such an arrest was made. End of quote. Monsieur le témoin, quelle est votre réaction?
Witness, how would you react to the fact that Chuk was transferred to Phnom Penh and Doik states that it was the Standing Committee of the party that had decided that he be arrested? Were you aware of that at the time?
No, I was not aware of that.
D'autres suggèrent aussi que c'est le
Doik also suggests that it was the Standing Committee that persuaded Sao Pim to accept that Chuk be arrested.
Councillor Vitor Copper, you had the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I object to the formulation of this question. The question would suggest that Sao Pim at that particular time was not part of the Standing Committee. I may refer prosecution and the Chamber to a document that belongs to the People's Revolutionary Tribunal, E3/7328. These are they refer to excerpts from minutes of a April 11 Standing Committee meeting. English ERN, by the way, 01002086. And at that meeting of the Standing Committee were present Pol Pot, Nuon Chea, Sao Pim, Tamok, Vornvet, Ieng Sary, Runim, Kepok, and Kyuson, and Son Sen. So making a distinction between Sao Pim and the Standing Committee in 76 might be erroneous.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, all I did was read out the statement of Doik, and Sao Pim was not mentioned as a member of the Standing Committee, and we only quoted what Doik said when he was present in this courtroom. Doik only quoted the Standing Committee minutes, and it refers to Sao Pim. whether he was a member or not. He was present at the meeting, and it is stated that the Standing Committee persuaded Sao Pim to accept that Chuk be arrested. My question is as follows. Did you know, witness, that the agreement of the zone chief was required for cadres within the East Zone to be arrested at the time, including Chuk, who was arrested?
I was not aware of that.
Pour revenir au rôle de votre
To return to your father's role within the East Zone and within the Kampuchea Communist Party, did you know whether he participated in negotiations with Vietnamese in 1976 regarding the demarcation of the borders between Cambodia and Vietnam?
I did not know what he was doing there. However, I used to accompany him to Tây Ninh province that is in Vietnam. I was his driver.
Est-ce que vous avez appris de la bouche de votre
And did you hear from your father's mouth or from other sources whether he occasionally attended meetings of the Standing Committee of the Party Central Committee?
I did not know about that. Most drivers, like myself, only drove the leaders, and we did not know about their affairs, and of course we were not allowed to be close to them.
Je comprends bien, mais
I very well understand, but between 1975 and 1979, I believe you were no longer working as a messenger or driver to your father. I was not talking of that period. I'll move on to another topic in document ET/2221. It is a report of the Standing Committee dated the morning of the 14th of May 1976, and it has to do with negotiations with the Vietnamese, and it also refers to those who attended it apart from the secretary or the comrade sub-secretary, comrade Van, comrade Vaughan, comrade Kiel, comrade Hem, comrade Ya, comrade Chan, comrade Say, and comrade Toch. And we note that comrade Chan took the floor twice during that meeting. Another question, witness, is as follows. Do you know whether your father, Tachan, whether he was in the absence of Sao Pim or not, sent written messages, reports, or telegrams to the party center in Phnom Penh?
I was not aware of that. Conservator Coppert, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. President. I was expecting a question on Chan being present at the Standing Committee meetings, but I know that Chan is speaking twice, but I'm not entirely sure whether this Chan is in fact the Chan who is the father of the witness. It might be, but it also might not be.
Je poursuis, Monsieur le Président.
I'd like to proceed, Mr. President. I'd like to show you witness with the leave of the President, document E3/1105. It has only a single page in English, and it is 00574470. French, 00532712, and in Khmer, there are 2 pages, 000-20899 to 900. It is a handwritten message sent by Comrade Chan on the 21st of December 1977 to beloved comrade brother. Mr. President, may I show the witness this document?
Yes, you may.
Et je vais citer une partie de ce document.
And I'll quote part of this document, the beginning witness, in the English version.
Of 21st December, I received your telegraph through the zone, and I informed Comrade Lin of the content for taking photographs, filming for him to report to you. At 3:30, I met Comrade Sela, and I informed Comrade Sela of your requests and content for taking photographs or filming in Sector 23 and 24. End of quote. Alors tout d'abord,
First of all, witness, do you recognize the signature at the bottom of the document on the second page?
Go on.
Yes. That is my father's signature. However, I never saw this document, and this is the first time that I see it. But I recognize my father's signature. I also can recognize his handwriting.
il est question ici du Comrade.
Here we are talking of Comrade Lin in this written document, handwritten document. Is that the third member of the zone committee with Sao Pim and your father?
I did not know the details of the committee members of the zone. I only knew that Lin was chairman of the office, since I used to receive the letter of authorization from the clerk at Lin's office.
Alors avant la pause,
Before the break, I would like to go into another line of questioning. It has to do with the purchase of cadres of the East Zone prior to the 25th of May 1978. So in 1976 and 1977, to your knowledge, had there already been waves of arrests within the different regions, 20 and 21, 22, 23, and 24 in the East Zone, in rubber plantations or at the level of the zone? Had there already been arrests at that time targeting the cadres of the different entities?
Starting from 1975, that is after the Liberation Day of Phnom Penh on 17 April of that year, I spent a very short time in the zone. Later on, I was sent for study sessions, and then I was integrated into a new unit. As for the affairs in Sector 21 or in the East Zone, I no longer had knowledge of it, and I did not dare to ask anyone about that as well.
Pour être plus concret, au sein de votre...
For purposes of completeness, within your leading workshop, were there any arrests before the 25th of May 1978?
Yes, there was. Even within my unit, security people came to arrest some members.
Est-ce que vous pouvez nous donner quelques détails?
Can you provide any details or incidents during which those arrests occurred and persons disappeared? And can you particularly give us the names of those who carried out the arrests and the names of the victims of such arrests?
I do not recall the names of people who were arrested. However, the person who was in charge of the group who came to arrest us, that is, arrest the workers, named Jin Sopi, who was in charge of security. That's all I know.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. President, I see we are running out of time. I still have only 45 minutes normally. After the break, I would like to reiterate my request for more time to be granted to me. I don't know whether the parties may want to make submissions on that as well, but it would be interesting to know whether before the break we would be allowed only the 45 minutes or more than that. Thank you.
C'est peut-être...
Perhaps this is a request for clarification regarding the points referred to by the prosecutor. Whether he will have to limit himself to the time allotted. I understand from his questions that the prosecutor is referring to things that are not related to the purge in 1978 in the East Zone, in which case I would remind the Chamber that the position of Kyo Sampan is that if at all there were purges, and this is the purge, the terminology used, they are talking of arrests, which is not necessarily pertaining to purges. And I would say that this doesn't fall within the scope of case 002/02, so I would like to know whether the prosecutor would like to further elaborate on that subject.
Yes, Mr. President, if I may say something about the underlying reasons the prosecution has forwarded to have extra time. It is, as I understood, because this is the only witness that the Chamber has called that is potentially able to shed light on events in the East Zone. I may remind the Chamber that we have requested many members from the East Zone to be heard as witnesses, and no decision on these requests have been made. So it is maybe because of the Chamber's position in this that this is the only East Zone witness that has been coming so far.
Well, if I may, Mr. President, respond to my colleague Antaguisse, the last line of questioning focuses on the events that precede 25 May 1978. I did not specify the year, however, but in any case, there are people who were arrested in the East Zone before that date and who ended up at S21. So all of the questions related to that, that is to say, what was the pathway of the people who were arrested to get to S21 are relevant. Furthermore, regarding indeed the East Zone, the defense often spoke about Sao Pun as well as Rufnim in the Northwest Zone, so it might be worthwhile to deepen other topics, that is to say, in particular, the relations between Sao Pim and the center. And the last topic I'd like to talk about is Chan, because a witness spoke about Chan before the co-investigating judge. Beyond, of course, the purges that occurred after the 25th of May 1978 and what the witness knew about these and saw. This is why I'm requesting extra time, because there are many more topics to cover. Thank you, Mr. President.
The Chamber will grant additional 40 minutes. However, it is now time for our lunch break. And the Chamber would like to inform the public that the Chamber will hold a swear-in proceedings of two new investigators from the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges. And this information is for the relevant parties as well as the two new investigators to participate in the proceedings. And it will commence after the adjournment of this proceeding at 11:30, and it may last until 12. And greffiers, please facilitate the proceedings for the swearing of the new investigators. It is now appropriate time for our lunch adjournment, and we will take a break now and resume at 1:30 to continue hearing the testimony of witness Mi Seun. And Mr. Mi Seun, it is now time for an adjournment, and court officer, please assist the witness at the waiting room reserved for witnesses and civil parties, and invite him as well as his duty counsel back into the courtroom at 1:30 this afternoon. Security personnel, you are instructed to take Kirsten Pon to the waiting room downstairs and have him returned to attend the proceedings this afternoon before 1:30. The court is now in recess.